Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. And today we are going to talk about window treatments. Okay guys, I know you're looking at this right now and you're thinking, man, that is really ugly around that window. That is a temporary blackout. It has taken Regan and I a little bit of time to figure out exactly what we wanted to do. We have decided we don't want the old blinds that go on there that you bend down, they get tore up, they look awful. We want a blackout shade, but we want a special shade. We want one that we can use with Alexa, we can use with a remote. I actually want one that has two shades on it so I can do a full blackout, or I can do just a partial blackout to where it'll let some light in. So the company that we've decided to go with is called Graywind Home. They are a custom smart home window treatment company. They've got a lot of innovative designs and things out there. I believe they have over 20 different patents to their name already. They work with blinds, shades, and shutters. So what we are going to do is I'm going to walk you through the steps of how you measure and how you order. I'm going to fire up the computer and let you guys see the screen so I can go through it step by step and you can see exactly how you need to order this product. Once we get it all measured and get it ordered, I am going to take the box and we're going to open it up together, see how it comes to you and what all you get. And then we are going to install the whole unit. So let's go ahead and let's get this thing measured and ordered. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to measure first. So let's get this thing off. There you go. And let there be light. So let's go ahead first of all, and let me show you how you're going to measure for these. So if I am doing an inside mount, it is relatively simple. We are just going to measure in 3 locations. Actually, I'm going to need this because this window is pretty tall. This is a 10-foot ceiling room. So you're going to take 3 measurements and make note of it. You're going to go at the bottom. I have exactly, this one's about 34 1/4. I'm going to come up and I'm going to pick about midway. I'm going to measure again. This one, 34 1/4. And this one is 34. So what you're going to do is you are going to take the smallest measurement to within a 1/16 of an inch. And that is what you're going to write down, and that's what you're going to order. So mine will be 34. Very important. Do not make that too tight. That's where I messed up, and you'll see in a minute when I go to try to put the shade in, I'm going to have a little trouble, but we're going to fix that. That is how you're going to measure the width. Now you do the same thing with the length. You're going to measure, especially if you are an inside mount. Inside mount, we measure the 3 locations. We have 70. Come over here, I have 70 about 1/4, and I have 70 1/4. So what we are going to do is take our smallest measurement, we're going to do the 70, and that way it will be able to go down all the way to the bottom without any problem, and you don't have a bunch of bunch up, because if you do it too long, you'll have a problem there. But they are automatically going to add a little bit to that, and you're going to set an upper and a lower limit. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and head over to Graywind and get our shades ordered. So whether you're using a laptop, desktop, you're using a smartphone or a tablet, it's all going to work basically the same way. You're going to want to go to whatever it is that you use as a browser, open up the browser, go to your Omnibox, which is basically your address bar up at the top, and you are going to type the Graywind blinds. Be sure you put the S in there, .com, and then hit your enter key. It's going to take you to the Graywind homepage. Now, this little box is going to pop up pretty much right in the beginning, and it's offering you an extra $20 off if you enter your email address. I don't need to do that today, so I'm closing it, but I would recommend doing that if you would like some discounts. And you're going to have other things pop up and gifts as well while you're here. So
the first thing I'm going to tell you you're going to want to do on this home page is scroll down, spend a little time researching the page and the products, and do your homework. So you're going to go through a lot of this stuff and just find out what it is that you actually want, and then you're going to come across here and pick the different products. Now, one thing I will suggest is go to the swatches key here, push this, scroll down and pick the swatches of the types of fabric and colors that you're interested in, and get some of those sent out, maybe so that you can have a better idea if it's going to work for you. So once you've done your homework, you've looked at your swatches, you've read a lot of the front page here, you're going to want to go ahead and place your order. Now, what we have are dual, just regular shades. So that's what we need to look for. We want smart, we want motorized, we want this column here. Now you have all of these choices here, but we are in shades. So you have roller shades, but we do not want just a roller shade, we want a dual shade. So we're going to click that one. Okay guys, so once we get to this page, you're going to pick the type of dual shades that you want. There's only 3 choices. The rest of this is blank. So if you come over here and we look at the one on the far right, that is going to be just a regular shade and a zebra shade. A zebra shade will allow you to adjust the light in between the little zebra marks right here. We don't want that. We go to the next one, number 2, which is a regular shade, and it's a sangria shade. That has veins in it, which they will adjust the light through those veins, and it'll be anywhere from a 60 to 90% blackout. That is not what I want as well. What I am looking for is just a double regular roller shade, which is what this one is. We're going to click that. So this is the page where we are going to pretty much complete our order. So you're going to start at the top and work your way down. The very first thing you're going to see are all predetermined colors. You can pick these. These are very popular, what a lot of people pick, and they tend to work well together. Or you can go to this one and click it, and now you can pick custom. After you do that, this little drop box opens. If you hit the drop box button, you can go down and pick the colors if you already know what they are, because you say you bought the swatches. Or you can hit this available fabrics gallery button, and it's going to allow you to go through and pick. Now you'll notice a lot of these have the 100% blackout little icons on the side, and you keep scrolling, and now you're going to get to 60s. And then this one's an interesting one. This is basically 5%, but that's not really 5% blackout. It means that you have basically the openness of the fabric is 5%, 1%, 3%, etc. It's kind of an interesting little way that they figured this one. If you go down here though, these are 20% blackout. So spend a little time, pick which ones that you want, make sure that you take note of these numbers right here, and then you will close this. And now you can go back to the drop down and you'll pick what you want. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do on the first one, we will do light coffee. And then the back shade fabric, we are going to go ahead and I'm going to do, this is the one where you want to maybe let some light in, or you can totally black it out. We are going to go down to let's do the 60%. We'll do that one right there, because that will be our back. This will be the front. Then you're going to come down to the next column, and this is going to ask you for your very front shade. This area here, this is the weights. You can either use a weight, a big one, which is white. You can use the black one, or you can use the fabric wrapped bar. I actually like the way that looks. That's what we're going to pick. Now we're going to do that for the back one. You can do it different if you like. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the back. So the next thing you're going to do is you are going to decide whether you want inside mount or outside mount. Inside mount simply means that the shade's going to be mounted inside the window framing in this area here. Outside means that it is going to be mounted outside of the window framing. So before you actually pick that though and start writing measurements down, go ahead and click this little button right here, and it's going to give you a breakdown of inside mount and outside mount. The key things that you need to know here is this area, the depth cannot be less than 2.5 inches. If it is, the dual cassettes will not function properly. If it is less than 4 5/8 in that same area, the cassette will stick out a little at the top. That's not really going to hurt anything, as long as you at least have this 2.5 inches though, so that your shades will be inside the window frame. Now when you go to measure, you're simply going to measure the top, the middle, and the bottom when it comes to the width, and you're going to write the smallest measurement down within 1/16 of an inch, and that will be your measurement for width. The actual height, you're going to go on one side measure, you're going to go to the middle, and you're going to go to the other side and measure. Now the difference on that one, you will take the smallest measurement, but it can be within 1/8 of an inch. So that is how you're going to figure your inside mount. Now let's take a look at the outside mount. The outside mount, the main things you need to pay attention to are the measure the width and measure the height. So when we look at the measuring the actual width, you're going to do, basically you're going to measure across get that smallest measurement, and then you're going to add anywhere from 1 to 3 inches per side, which will be 2 to 6 inches total overlap. That helps with privacy, helps with blocking out light. And one of the things you've got to pay attention to is the trim that goes around your window if you have window trim, because these mounts will need to be on the other side of that trim on each side. You don't want to mount this cassette on your trim. So that is one thing to pay attention to, but you will do that and you'll have the 2 to 6 inches total. Now when you do the height, you're going to do the same thing. Take your measurement and you can add at least 3 inches, which will allow for the valance that goes up on this top part here and covering any trim and all at the bottom. So that is pretty much it on figuring that out. So once you enter these numbers, you're going to go down to the reconfirmation area and you will literally type the numbers. Now I've already pre-typed them, so they're going to pop up here. And basically what this is going to do is they are going to compare this number with what you have up here. And if there is a discrepancy and it doesn't match, they're going to contact you before they actually build your shades. So once you get that done, this area is complete. So once you have all of your measurements in, it's time to pick the motor. You basically have 3 choices here. If you click this little button, it's going to go through and allow you to kind of study up and decide which motor you want. I'll give you a couple of quick highlights. The BLE motor is basically going to work just with the remote and their app. If you go to the Zigbee motor, it will work basically with Alexa. If you go to the Matter motor, it is going to work with Alexa. It's going to work with Apple or Google. I want just Alexa, so we are going to hit that one. And now we will go down to the next section, which is going to be the remote control. You can either do no remote, or you have an option of the 15-channel timing remote, or you have the option of the 15-channel timing remote with this little black rubber cover that goes around it. I will tell you, it is extremely heavy duty and it will protect that remote. We're going to go ahead and pick that option. And now we go to the Smart Bridge option. You can get a Zigbee hub if you want, or you can do none. I'm doing none because I will be using an Alexa hub. The next option we have is going to be solar panels. Now, the solar panels are kind of interesting. You hit the how does it work right here. If you look, your solar panels are mounted on the glass. You may not be getting enough sun in that area. You can drill through and run an extension and try to mount these further away. We will go ahead and we will pick them just to show you how it works. We would really need 2 of them to be able to power both of those shades at the same time. So we're going to do 2. And then we can do motor extension cords. Those help a lot if your plugs are down below here and you need an extension to go down to them all the way from the top where you plug it in. So it's a 78-inch cord and you get 2 of them for $4. That's really not a bad deal. We're going to go ahead and pick those. Now this is asking us for room labels. Now I've already put a couple in here. We've got living room shade, or I have a master room shade. We're going to do the master. So now we have that actually labeled. Now you get to pick, do you want an extended warranty, a 2, 3, 4, or 5-year warranty? I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and pick the 5. Why not get the best, right? So now we're down at the very end and we are ready to add it to cart, but you can go ahead and add a second one here. So say you have 2 windows or 3 windows or 4 windows that are all basically the same size. You don't have to re-enter all this information again. You can simply add them right here. We are going to go back to 1 because that's all we need, and we are going to add it to the cart. Now, after you add it to the cart, it's going to give you a recap screen that's going to pop up right here, and you can go through and check everything and make sure that this is exactly what you wanted. Make sure your measurements are right and everything else before you actually hit that add to cart button. It even gives you a subtotal here. So we're going to go ahead and add to cart. And now we are ready to rock and roll. We check out. Now here's one of the free gifts I was telling you about. This is a Graywind cell phone holder. You're going to get it for free. And you can add that to your cart right now and it will show up in there. And you'll just go through your basic logout. They give you another little recap and everything and you're ready to go. So I tell you what, now that you kind of see how it's ordered, let's go ahead, close this down, and let's get out there and finish the actual shades.
All right, guys, so let's go ahead and let's get the box open. I have already cut the straps, but I want to point something out to you. Inside of these boxes, you are going to have a fabric type shade or something of that nature. So you don't want to use a razor knife and be cutting down because you are liable to cut into your shade. So make sure you grab those straps and cut up. If you notice, I have no cut marks on the actual cardboard. I cut up. Very important so you don't damage your shade. So let's open this thing up. Now I have cut them, but I have not opened it. So you're going to get to see it the first time, just like I am. We'll see what's inside of here. So we open it. Actually, there we go. And the very first thing I see on the top is you are going to have their information, business card, warranty, and instructions. So set that aside. And then let's take a look here. Now we have a valance on this particular unit, which looks really nice. We're going to see how that actually goes on. One of the things I see right away there is your remote. And this remote looks pretty awesome. All right, so that's kind of cool. They have a little protective piece here that shows you what's inside. And it should just flip right open. There it is. It's in another protective covering. So one thing I can say is they definitely know how to wrap the products and protect them. All right, it has some little mounting screws here and a mounting plate. So if you're wanting to mount this on the wall, you can do that. Very cool feature. And I will tell you, the remote feels a little heavy. It's not lightweight like I expected. It seems to be very nicely made. Oh, it is nice. So the way they make this is it fits in your hand really well. Do like that. It's got a nice rubbery, it's actually a very rubbery feel. And the actual remote itself comes out. So this is just a holder. And you have the small piece here that you can control it with. Very unique remote. So I cannot wait to get this installed and see how well that's going to turn out. Now they have a lot of protective foam. I like that, so that if you did happen to cut down there, you're not going to cut directly into the actual product. Here is your cable for hooking up. This is actually for charging. I can see it right there. Actually charging slash the solar panel. And here as the solar panel. This is the panel I was talking about that we are going to mount up on the roof, which is going to charge our unit for us. And it has a protective coating on it right now. Once we get it mounted, we will pull that coating off. So we'll figure that out. And this is going to be your mounting hardware right here. And it matches the valance right there. So they kind of match. Yeah, let's see what else we got in here. And we have two separate shades. Now remember, these shades, you're going to have one that is blackout, and then I have a second one which will allow some light in, depending on what we are looking for. So that is all of that system. It's got the little wires on it. Very well covered. And and basically there are two solars. So you end up with two solar strips. Let's see what we got here. There is your cords. Now these look more like probably going to be the long cords that are going to run to the solars. You have two of those. So you have two chargers and you have two cords for the solars. And I'm assuming you're going to have one solar for each one of the shades and one charging cord for each shade, because they're going to be separate motorized units. So very cool. And the last but not least is going to be some little mounting screws and hardware to actually mount this unit. So it doesn't look like it's going to be too difficult to mount. So one of the things I forgot to mention to you guys earlier when we were talking is we have this remote, but we are going to be using an Echo Smart Hub as well to help control everything, because we use that hub to control things like our automatic locks on our doors, our washing machine and dryer. There's just so many things through the home, our security system. So we wanted to be able to tie our shades to that where we can just give a quick voice command. Even though these remotes are awesome, this is a backup because the plan is Alexa. So I will show you that a little bit later as well. We're going to go ahead and get everything back in the box, kind of get over there, get it set up, and then we'll go ahead and start installing these things. So let's go ahead and get them installed. This is what actually holds the sides, the brackets. And how these things are mounted is they are mounted with this little hook on the front, because you're going to have a little trim piece. Your valance goes on and hooks here. This is motor side. This is the free spin side right here. So it is going to mount like this right here. Okay, and I like to mount mine and push it all the way back. So I'll have just a little bit of the cassette sticking out. And you're going to attach it not from the back, but from the top, just like that. So the reason I'm telling you that though is it's very important to be able to figure out which blind is which. So they are going to mount like that. This will have the round part with the little metal clip that sticks out. This is where the motor is going to set. So that is important. So how you can tell the difference in V1 and V2 is the way that they are rolled. This one on V2 is rolled to the front. This one in V1 is rolled to the back. So look at that very close so that you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So now that you understand that, what I did is I took each one of my blinds and I wrote on them V1 and V2. Now it may be very obvious depending on which blinds that you pick. Mine look very similar. So if you look at them, it's very hard to tell a difference. So if I look at this one, motor side, and it's rolled to the front. Look at this again, motor side rolled to the front is V2. That's why I marked this right here as V2. So on the other one, we are going to look at it again, and we have motor side, and I can see that it is rolled from the rear. This is coming out from the back of the actual roll. So if you look at your manual here, we have motor side coming from the rear. This is V1. So I write V1 right there. Makes it nice and easy for me to be able to figure these out when I go to put them on, and I don't put them on in reverse. So now what we got to do is we are going to have to mount these. Now before I mount these though, what I do is you are going to take one of your reels and place them. And by the way, when you open these up, it has a cover here. Do not cut this until you get ready to mount it. Helps hold everything together. So I'm going to take these right now. This is going to be one. This goes on this side, and this one will go on this side. So we are going to take and kind of line these up, and let's see how far off I am. So I'll hold that into place, and I'm going to put this one in. And now we're going to see if it slides in. That works very well. Let's go ahead and get these mounted. So what I do is I will take and put it up here flush. Now you can move these out a little bit if you like, you know, and get it out in this direction. If you want it off the window a little more, I like mine close to the window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark here. I do not necessarily have to mark my spots, but I can pre-drill a couple of the screws if I want to do that to make it easier to hold this into place. But the main reason you may end up doing that is if you are basically just drywall around the side and you do not have a lot of wood in there to grab a hold of, they give you anchors. Your anchors are going to look like these right here. Let me pull some out of the bag so that you can see. And these are pretty nice anchors. These are steel anchors that will go into the drywall, just like this, and allow you to anchor the drywall without having wood behind you. Now I have wood trim and I have a solid header going all the way across there. I do not need these anchors. I am going to use screws, but I'm not going to use these screws. You can pull these screws out of here and use these, but they tend to strip out, especially going into wood and if you are using a power tool. So I'm going to use deck screws because it's a little stronger, a little longer, and it still fits perfectly fine, and it is not in the way of my reels. So we're going to put a couple deck screws, and we're going to start with that first. And actually, let me go ahead and get this other side marked as well, so we can pre-drill the screws. Now you can pre-drill if you think you need to. I do not really need to do that. Let's see, right there. Easy to get that turned upside down. Just like that. Marking my spots, and I will pull out the deck screw. So I have my Milwaukee, and this is a regular screw bit. We're going to switch over because I like the star bits. They don't strip, they're easy to get out. And these are the deck screws that I'm going to use. I believe these are 1 5/8. Let's see, make sure I'm telling you right. Yep, these are the 1 5/8 deck screws. Pretty much the same size head as the other. Like I said, it's not going to be in the way. A little bit more aggressive thread for holding into the wood, and the end is not going to strip out. That's one of the most frustrating things when you're putting something like this up, and if you're using a power tool and not just a Phillips screwdriver, you're liable to strip that head out, and then you're kind of stuck. You got to try to get it out, get another screw. This kind of eliminates that problem. So all I'm going to do is pre-drill it a little with the screw, so it makes it easy to get that started. And we are going to put it right in the spot that we're looking for, right there. And this one is a little difficult to turn that. Get it right where I want it. There we go. All right. So that's simple, guys. The brackets are up. So if you did have a problem, and obviously mine is fine, you would take a block and a mallet, and you're going to hit the sides to bump it in just a little. Now, the reason you're using a block is you do not want to tear your trim up, but you would hold it up flush like this, and you'd pap it a little. Just like that, to give yourself just that little bit of extra room. So that is one way you can fix that problem. So if that does not work, what you're going to need to do is get a multi-tool. You're going to take your brackets, put them up there, kind of mark where the ending and beginning is at, and then on one of the sides, I would try to trim it down just a little with that multi-tool, and only where that bracket is going to set, because you don't want to mar up your trim. So one other thing I wanted to show you guys is if you are an outside mount, where you mount the brackets. So instead of being in here like this bracket is going to move to the outside. Now, they show it like this in the diagrams, which is great if you are not worried about your trim, but I would not want mine there. I would more prefer it to be over here. Now, you just have to make sure that your reels are not going to hit your trim. Otherwise, you're going to want it on the trim, just like this. So it kind of depends on your situation, but they will mount out here. So what you do is you're going to put the gear part in first, and you want to have this where your control mechanism here is going to be at the front. So we're going to get that in there. There it is, control mechanism here. My wires are out of the way. And now I'm going to slide up into this, right there, and you are good to go with that one. We want to try to get this where it's towards the front. There it is. And now we want to go up and in over here. All right, and get that done. Let's see what I'm doing right there. Trying to stay out of your way, and it made it hard for you. You'll hear it click when it goes in. Go ahead and cut this loose so that we can go ahead and set our limit. Just like that, and now it hangs loose. Now, to be able to set your limits, there's a little plug here. You got to remove that little plug. So now your little plug is removed, which is right here on the sides. See the plug on this one? You have this one. There is going to be a little button here on this side. The button is directly under it, and when you get down here towards the bottom, you're going to want to push the stop. So I stopped it at the very bottom here, guys. Now, this one will actually is a tad bit long, so you can reset it, but I'll probably reset that later with the remote. So what we're going to do now is we reach back in and we hit it again so it closes, and you're going to want to stop it when it gets right up in here. If not, it will go all the way around, and a lot of times you have to reset. So your button is right here. There we go. And you just let it keep going until it gets almost to the top, and you will stop it. Right, let it keep going, let it keep going. And boom, right there. Perfect, that's where we want it. So now we're going to do the same thing with the front one. And if you notice, that one lets the light in. That's the rear one that I was talking about. So go ahead and cut your shade loose. Being very gentle, not to cut your shade itself. And there you go, set this aside. And by the way, on this one, it does have the actual model number, the date it was ordered, and everything else. So if you need that information, it is right there. Get it right down to the bottom and push it when it gets there. Okay guys, a couple of little tricks I have figured out that are probably going to save you some time. When you go to put these brackets up, depending on the measurement you took, it will change where those brackets really end up being on the top. So they may not be flush to the sides, because if you took your shortest measurement and say it's down here, now you're going to have these in the wrong place at the top. So when you look at your brackets, they are slotted. So you can put the screw in the center and you're able to move them left or right. So before you actually put your reels in, take your valance and go ahead and make sure that it lines up perfectly on each edge and adjust these to make them correct. One other thing, when I actually installed these units, you're supposed to go ahead and put the motor side in, and the gear on the other side, you rotate it backwards 45 degrees fairly vigorously, they say, and then you'll slide it up and clip it into place. That keeps the unit tight. Okay, it is now fully installed, but I wanted to go over a couple of things with the remote. I have the 15-channel remote. This remote comes with the rubber holder, which is really great for, making sure that it doesn't get destroyed if it gets thrown around or dropped. You're going to pop it out of that, though. It just pulls out simply. You have a little cover on the back. You're going to pop the little cover off, and you have two set buttons, a P1 and a P2. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pair your units together. Like in this case, I have two of them. So you're going to give each one a channel. I gave mine channel 2 and channel 3. I have two other units in the other room, so they all have their own numbers. That really comes in handy when it comes to programming your Alexa and everything else. You need to have them all separate. That's why they give you 15 different channels. So the very first thing you got to do, though, is you got to throw this into programming mode. And all you're going to do is hit this arrow keys on the side. You're going to scroll through. By the way, your 0 will control all of them at the same time. So that if, say in this case, if I have two of them together and I want them to both go up and down at the same time, I will use the 0. Okay? If I want to control each one separate, which you are definitely going to want to do here because your back one is going to be shear, you will scroll to that number. So let's go to 2 should be the rear one, 3 should be the front one. I should be able to hit the up key now, and I open just the front. So by only raising the front shade, I let a little light come through the shear one in the back. That's why it's really nice to be able to control them separately. So what you're going to do, though, to get this program is you are going to open up the back so that you can get to your P1 and your P2. And you are actually going to follow your instructions. The first thing you've got to do is throw it into program mode, and that is going to be inner setting mode, which is on my book is page 36. It may be different in the book that you have, but you are going to follow the instructions. It's going to tell you to hit your arrow keys and pick the channel that you want. And once you get to that channel 1 through 15, you're going to hold the P1 for 5 seconds. And when you do that, you're going to see that the whole front area, this part that lights up, is going to be flashing. So once you have it in programming mode, turn to the back of your book. Mine is page 49, and it is going to be add a new remote. You will be able to actually pair this to that shade. You will do that for each one of them. So once you have all that taken care of, it's a matter of just putting the valance on and you're ready to go. And remember, you will pull that on and off, and your charging ports are right here. I have a plug directly below, so I can actually charge those units. Okay, so one other thing I want to point out to you guys is I originally planned on using the solar. And the solar's a great little system, but let me show you how it works and let me explain to you why I'm not using the solar. First of all, it has the little short cords. Now you can do extensions here. I did order extensions, and I believe these are going to be more for charging, which is great because they go all the way to the floor. But if I'm going to hook these together, I'm going to have one of the little connectors in the middle. So keep that in mind if you are going to try to run these further away. So how these mount, how they are originally set to mount. Now they can go outside or they can go inside, but these are set up so you pull the little cover off, and these little red tabs here, you're going to pull that little covering off the top, and those are sticky. And they're made to actually stick in your window like this. And you got to have this where you can get it around here. So in my case, you would have to have 2 of them right next to each other and feed over and try to get to that. Well, it's kind of a pain getting that in there where it's going to work right and not bind with my blind or my shade. That's one issue, but my biggest issue is the fact that I have a lot of trees. If you can see through the window now, I have trees all here through this area, and they're blocking my light. Well, I planned on running these further over to the left, but that means I'm going to have to drill holes somehow and get through there, and I am solid blocked across the top and these sides. So that's not going to be very easy. Besides the fact that I'm going to have these exposed little ends that they clip in. I did not like that, so I decided not to do it. So keep in mind that you are going to probably mount these on the window. You may not like the way that looks, and then it may not be a problem for you at all. And that is fantastic. If that works for you, then I would get these and make sure that you have plenty of light. And when you're speaking of light, I also have very expensive windows here that are blocking out a lot of the rays. If they block out 70% or more of your rays, you will not be able to use these as well. So keep that in mind with your windows if you are ordering these. So we are going to go ahead and just periodically charge the batteries. They should last anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on how much you're using your shades. These in a bedroom will not be used that often. Just in the morning, maybe in the evening. So it shouldn't be too bad, and it should last quite a while. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with these. We're going to go on to how do you set up the app next. Now, this is something that is a little confusing, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on. If you're familiar with Alexa and Alexa apps, this may be very simple for you. This was really my first venture off into Alexa. So what you need to do is Graywind has their own app. You need to download that app onto your phone first and set that up, and it will control your shades. And then from inside that app, you will be able to connect to an Alexa hub, and then Alexa can control it. So it's basically called a gateway, and you're going to have both of those things. I was originally thinking I could just set up my Alexa hub and it should be recognizing and finding the shades, and I didn't have to do anything else. But no, that is not the case. You definitely need the Graywind hub first, or the Graywind, app first, and then connect it to your Alexa or your Google or your Apple. So you're going to kind of go through those processes. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to get the app set up to Alexa and all that, and then we'll kind of show you the final product of how well it works. So let's do that. Well, there you go, guys. It is installed. It's working great. As you noticed, I'm in different clothes. The reason for that is it's been about 2 weeks since I installed this unit, but I wanted to give it a couple of weeks of using it every day so that I can tell you guys correctly what the pros and the cons are to owning this system and installing this system. So I'm going to tell you first of all, the number one issue that I had, it wasn't installing the unit. It goes in really easy, measuring is easy, ordering is easy. It's the instructions. The instructions are kind of rough. Now, I have to give the company credit. They've got a lot of videos out there and that'll try to walk you through it, but there's different motors and things that are involved here. So depending on which motor you've got, it works differently. I think I even mentioned in the video earlier that you just have to have the Graywind app and then it will go to the Alexa. Well, that is not necessarily true with all the motors. Different motors will require a different thing. That's where the Graywind hub comes in. This particular system, I need a Graywind hub to make my Alexa work correctly. So the other units that I have in my living room, I didn't need that. I just needed the Graywind app and I was able to connect straight off of that app into my Alexa. So it's two different things. And when you're ordering, spend a little bit of extra time at the motors and understand what hubs and things that you're going to need to make that motor that you're ordering work. That will help you a lot. Take your time. The print on some of these manuals is very small. You may need some magnifying glasses to be able to read it, but take your time and read it. And I will also say that if you get stuck, reach out to the Graywind support. They were very great. I talked to them over 3 or 4 days, but keep in mind, they are based out of China and they tend to not respond until the middle of the night. So you'll ask a question during the day, but you won't get the response generally till the next morning. So it takes a little bit of time doing that. So watch the video over and over, read the book carefully. One of the big things that'll help you is know that you need to probably download that Graywind app. It's going to help you tremendously. All right, so some of the other things I found. One of the big things I did not like, I don't like the amount of light that shows on the sides. But Graywind does offer some little side covers. I don't know how well those work, so I cannot speak to that. But you might want to try that if you're going to have them mounted inside. You'll notice I have my outer shade half up and this one down. And the reason I did that is so that you can take a look at this and understand you have a double shade here closer in, which is going to stop a little bit more of that light. So on a double shaded system like this one, there's not as much light coming through as a single like what I have in my living area. So keep that in mind. You may want to go ahead and order the outer type that covers the trim. Now, one of the other things I'm going to tell you, over the last couple of weeks, I decided I didn't like the names that I had given them. For one, if I'm using Alexa, I have to call out this big long name. So you want the name easy, like shade 1, shade 2, shade 3, shade 4. You can even do number 1, number 2, number 3. But if you do Graywind shade number 1, Graywind shade number 2, and you keep so on and so on, it gets really kind of tedious calling that out to Alexa to have her open up your shades or close your shades. So name it correctly in the beginning and give yourself a little time to think about how you want it named. And I will tell you why, because if you go back later and you change the names like I did over the last 2 weeks a couple of times, you end up reprogramming everything. Every time I did it, I had to go in, wipe everything out, wipe out all my stops and everything, and redo the whole thing. That became a pain. So name it correctly the first time. Now, if you're using the Graywind app, you will have a favorite spot. And you can set your favorites. You can do all of that. You'll go through the manual. It'll tell you exactly how to do it. It's pretty simple. If you're using the Alexa, though, you can actually tell it to open to a certain degree. I do like that. That's very cool. But overall, I think it's a great shade. This one is vinyl, so it's easy to clean. Now, this one is a little bit different, fabric, because it lets that light come through. But during the day, I can actually take this thing and go ahead and open the other one all the way and let a lot more light in the room. So it kind of brightens up the room without giving away all of your privacy. You're still private and you have some light coming in, and it just gives you that nice mood. And also don't forget, you can set schedules with these things so that every morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, all your shades open up. Every night at say 6 o'clock, all your shades shut. That's really great if you're going to be taking vacations and things like that. It's going to constantly be opening and closing those shades. It's going to look like someone's in the house. Gives you a little bit of protection. So do yourself a favor, jump online and go get yourself some Graywind shades for your home today. I don't think you'll regret it. Good morning, Alexa. Alexa, close shade 1.
Okay.